Welcome to Business Coaching Secrets with Karl Bryan. If you want to attract new high-end coaching clients, fill live events, and build a wildly profitable coaching practice where business owners pay, stay, and refer, you've come to the right place. In this podcast, Karl provides his keys to the kingdom for finding and signing high-paying clients and building the coaching business of your dreams. Here we go.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, coaches around the world, welcome to another episode of Business Coaching Secrets. It's your boy, the Road Dog, of course, with none other than the man, the myth, the guy that's living his best life in the summer of Karl will now be identifying as party time. Karl Bryan, welcome to the show.
Shoots. How are you, buddy? Doing good, man?
Those are pronouns for the summer party time. That's what you're identifying as for the next 21 days. Is that correct?
Something like that. Anybody, I have 502 hours to be specific, but I have I'm doing some work. I'm hanging out, and summer of Karl. Let's go with that, Shoots.
There it is. All right. Listen, bud, I want to get right into it here today. Boy, it seems like every ad, every email, like everywhere you look, it's all about AI. Like it's, I understand, like obviously it's unreal, right? Like it is a rabbit hole beyond rabbit holes. And I just want to get your thoughts, like what you think and kind of where you think it's all going.
I agree with you. But by the way, as we know, Road Dog, that has a lot to do with the fact that, you know what I mean? Like you're engaged looking at that stuff, and so am I. So I'd agree as I'm, floating through Facebook, I see AI here, there, and bloody everywhere. If you weren't looking at the stuff and you weren't clicking on it, you probably wouldn't be seeing it at the rate that we are. Every time over history, like I don't know. Again, there's people about a million times smarter than I on AI, so I don't want to pretend like I'm the expert because I am not. That being said, spent plenty of time. We did a 7-hour masterclass on AI for business coaches, right? Replays available, little plug. But you know what I mean? So like I feel like I get it at a level better than most, possibly not. But I'll just tell you that every time in history, right, they say, oh, society's going down. This time it's going to go down, and it'll be 2 decades. It'll be 20 years until we see status quo again. And you see it with real estate. You see it with business. You see it with society. You see it, Generation X, Generation this. What ends up happening, right? And just look over over time, and just, again, listen to Warren. Don't listen to me. Listen to Warren Buffett. Listen to Charlie Munger. And they are going to show you that, the stock market has done one thing and one thing only over the long haul, and that is go up. Society as a whole, if you looked at it on the same, kind of grid, you will see that it did what? It has gone up. Really, there's been if you really, really looked at it objectively and you used some mental models and you were honest with yourself and you were subjective about what you were looking at, you would see that there is no better time than now to be alive in terms of just think of Zoom. You could live anywhere. If you have any creativity whatsoever, you could live anywhere in the world and do a high-paid job, right? You could jump on an airplane and you could go from, one side of the world to the other in a matter of hours, right? And like, when have you been able to do that, right? Again, we're shooting people off into space, right? And that's Elon, Jeff Bezos, and the boys. Anyway, so you know what I mean? What ends up happening, like we're significantly better off, and that is going to be the case here. The robots are not coming to overtake us anytime soon. That being said, you would be crazy. And am I, looking at it and I'm like, oh, geez, what's going on here? A little bit nervous about this, that, and the other. You got it. The solution to fear is to educate yourself, right? And yeah, there's some, if you don't, there's some crazy and wild stuff going on. The solution of that, again, I just said it, educate yourself. So if you are not leaning into AI and educating yourself and learning how to use it, applications of, you'd be making a mistake. Like, when I think of AI, I think of my old man, right? My dad, Skinny. He He's 81 years old, right? He can hardly use a cell phone. He can text me now, and it's like comical because my dad's not the guy. Like, I love you is just not something my dad's saying, right? But like, he's sending me heart emojis and all this stuff, and it cracks me up. But anywho, my dad's 81 years old and can hardly use a phone, to say he can hardly use a computer would be an exaggeration, right? He can play poker, right? He plays poker pretty much every day. That's what he does on his computer. That's his fun time. That's his thing. But so that's what he's doing. So my dad would tell you that he is illiterate, and my dad has an IQ, like he's just a shade. He's very superior on the scale, like he's close to a genius in IQ. But he will tell you, and he would hate the fact that I'm saying that, but more, he is a very smart guy who did not embrace the internet in any way, right? Because of his age and what he was doing, and yada yada yada. He's semi-retired. Why bother? But he'll tell you now that he is like illiterate because he struggles to try. There's so many things that he struggles to do now, which is a real pain in the butt. And I only say that to hopefully kick you into gear, and those that you love into gear, because that is not a good dynamic by any stretch of the imagination. There will be a time, and it's not soon, where you will be considered to be a little bit on the illiterate side. And those are my dad's terms, by the way. That's not me calling my dad illiterate, but he'll tell you he struggles mightily. So lean into it. I'm not the expert. Go follow. If you really want to lean into it, go follow experts, legit expert, which is probably not the guy on your Facebook feed. And understand it at a higher level, because there's some massive opportunities, but also massive responsibilities that come with those. Let's put that in there. Anyway, shoots. I don't know. That's what I'm going to say. Lean into it, but I don't think the robots are coming to overtake us. I don't, you know what I mean? I'm not on that train right now.
And I got to say, me even asking you about tech at times seems kind of interesting, because I would say you're probably marginally more functional on your device than your dad. Like it's yeah, this is it, right, folks? Karl's about as good with technology as he is with picking hockey playoff winners. How's that? I'm not. Ooh, which one are you better at?
Buddy, don't hurt my feelings. Shoots. People are listening.
Hey, listen, you mentioned obviously working from everywhere, and obviously our audience here, for the most part, I would imagine, business coaches, and obviously those margins are huge, right? Typically, what do you say, 80% minimum, probably, thereabouts?
You're doing it right. Yeah, if you got 70 to 80, yes.
Okay, so if you're doing it right, folks, if you're doing less than that, focus.com, just a little nugget right there. How's that for a pitch? But listen, like when we're looking at businesses to target as coaches, do you agree that high, like, gross profit margin type businesses are the best? And then what are the best businesses for gross profit margin?
Nice. Best business. So yeah, I agree. One of the reasons why you want to be a business coach or consultant is because of the margins, right? In fact, we talked about it a little bit on the pre-show. But education is, you make massive margins on education, and that's effectively what we are. So that's why you're making 70 to 80% margins if you're doing it right. So I'm going to look, sounds obvious, but luxury goods / high-end offerings is going to be my answer. Think Ferrari, think Maserati, think first class versus coach when you're flying, right? Or Virgin. What's like Virgin in Australia? It's Virgin Blue. I think like Virgin is a low-end airline. WestJet in Canada is a low-end airline, and then there's Emirates, right? Like you got high-end offerings and low-end offerings. Just think high-end offerings. It's right there in front of you, right? Like here's a beauty shoots. Like think of high-end universities. I had a conversation about this literally this morning. Like they make like 90% margins, right? Heard of and unheard of in any other industry or other industries. And they've done it for like, this isn't like a 1, 2, 3 year thing. They've done it for like literally decades. And think brands like Harvard, think MIT, think Berkeley, They're not schools, they're luxury brands, right? Think again, Rolex, Burberry, Louis Vuitton, Ferrari, Maserati. Like those are luxury brands, and you don't think of Harvard as a luxury brand, but they absolutely are. They reject. Like think about this, right? This like, oh, come to Harvard, come to Harvard. They reject 85% of the people that apply, and then the successful applicants and their rich parents do what? They applaud, right? Plus they cheat to get in. But hey, I didn't say that. You know what I mean? Like so, it's kind of wild. It's like that scarcity. And then I want you to think the scarcity, but then the public acknowledgement of it, right, is the reason they can maintain those crazy margins. If you're sitting there going, how do they keep doing it? I'm telling you, it's the way they market, right? So, and then are you as a business coach? Look, here's a question. Are you spending time telling people how many people you do not allow in? Right? Like think about that, right? Is that part of your pitch? Does that naturally come out of your mouth? And I would dare say that it doesn't. And you might want to be, using that same technique, talking about that a lot, right? Like we're doing a program soon on running local live events, right? Like I'll be running Facebook ads for them, and all the participants will get like clients. Like it's going to be a 1 month thing, and they're all going to have clients within that 1 month, right? We're only going to be accepting a select few people, right? So again, guess what? 90% of the people that are going to apply are not going to get accepted, right? And it's not that we don't want them, right? It's not that there won't be another opportunity sometime in the distant future. But the reality is that a program that's as one-to-one hand-holding as this, we can only handle a small group, right? Just the intense nature of the project, right? Like filling events with coaches and then closing the clients, with them. You can just imagine it's a one-to-one thing, right? So that, you know what I mean? Like the scarcity and the inability, the fact that we're only going to be able to handle X amount of coaches, X amount of clients in order to get into it. You can just see by the nature of it that people are going to want to fill in the application. They're going to want to be accepted. And after they apply, I guarantee they're going to be asking, like, do you have a ruling on this? Am I in? Am I in? Am I in? Right? That's what will happen. But anyways, that is exactly what happens at Harvard, MIT, Stanford, etc. So look, back to margins. There's no business like education, right? Again, debate, depends 70, 80, 90% margins. Like Apple's in comparison, right? So if you're going, oh, wow, yeah, those are great margins. When you think of luxury brands like Apple, they make 35% margins, right? Louis Vuitton, Rolex, others, 50% margin, right? So, and the scarcity is the reason. So if you're going, okay, well, how do I go from 35% to 90%? Scarcity, and then the fact that they're selling education, which is a like an intangible, it also has to come into it. So anyways, that's what I'm going to say. And also, okay, so to maintain margin, I want you to think supply versus demand. Like that's got to come into it, right? So again, universities limit the supply and talk about it consistently as part of their marketing. Like you and me don't realize it's them marketing. We think it's news, right? So again, an education, like an accountant without a consulting division, which is effectively the accountant not selling tax returns and staying compliant with the government, is just crazy not to be selling consulting, selling education, right? A magazine, what do they sell? Advertising. Why does somebody buy advertising in a magazine? Because they're trying to grow their business. Does that ad really solve that problem? And the answer is probably not. What if you turn that around and you help them with the ad and then the education as well? And education has 90% margins, right? They buy a $3,000 ad and then they get sold a $10,000 educational piece, right? So any advertising medium could effectively do that. Okay, but let's not go advertising. Let's go, butcher, baker, candlestick maker. Like if your client sells landscaping, are they selling high-end landscaping? And then, by the way, if I look at the name of their company, I look at their truck, I look at their brochure, I look at their website, my question is, does it say high-end or does it say low-end? Right? And there's a really good chance it says low end. They don't need to advertise the fact that they are inexpensive, because everything about them, their outfit, the way that they present themselves, potentially the way that they talk, but their marketing material says it. So you got to jack that up. I remember a story from way back when, but I had a client, they were discount mortgages. And I'm like, so the question is, why do you attract low end individuals? Right? Like I was like, can you just have a look at your business card, please? And like, what does it say? What do you think that the guy driving a Rolex, or sorry, driving a Ferrari with a Rolex around his wrist is going to, contact discount mortgages to get their mortgage? And the chances is, maybe, but highly doubtful, right? But when they call, premium, platinum, mortgages, no doubt, like there's an inbuilt, if you're, gourmet pizza versus three, like if you own you start a pizza place and what do? They're 2 for 1, 3 for 1. And then they wonder why they don't make any money, right? Like 3 for 1 pizza. One thing I guarantee is it's garbage. I would never get my family 3 for 1 pizza in a million years. Could you imagine? Like, what the heck are they putting on these things? And by the way, it's 3 for 1. And it's not like it's $60 for a pizza, right? Like it's $20. So that, like, you know what I mean? Like it's already built in and people just don't realize. When I say people don't, the average business owner, this isn't where their mind goes. They're not listening to this podcast. They're not listening to this kind of education, right? So again, the chiropractor, if I get a chiropractor and I'm guiding him, the first thing I do is I'd be selling a high-end product. We talked in the pre-show, right? There's a client, what was he doing? $5 million a year, 2.5% margins, I think, Road Dog. First thing I said, you just go to his margins, man. Take 2.5 and increase them to 10 and blow up the boats to do it. And by the way, his current roadmap is not going to get there. And then one of the challenges that he's got, like, one of the things we said, and it was right there in the pre-show, but like go to the guy's paperwork and then make sure that it's built in, because he has a lot of contracts and raising the prices was a challenge, is one of the things that Rick said, right? So I said, okay, go to his paperwork, go to the contract, and he needs to write into the contract that he is able to doesn't have to, he should, but he's able to raise prices consistent with inflation on a year-to-year basis effective January 1st, right? Well, by doing that, he immediately has a license to raise his prices consistent with inflation, which right now, it's insane, right? It's a large number. But anyway, so the average IT company is just not thinking like that, not putting that into his contracts would be a good idea. Your client's a dentist, same thing, do high-end dentistry, not low-end dentistry, high-end dentistry. Anyways, so there you go, Shoots. That's what in fact, I was going to say, like, an existing brand is like low-end, okay? So you're just going to automatically raise their prices like big time. That's not a good idea, right? Like that generally will not work. It could be done over a 5-year period, a 3-year period, over like a 3-month period, probably be a little bit hairy, but they could potentially start a complementary brand, right? But then this one would be like a high-end one.
So,
anyways.
Carl, if I can jump in there just for a sec, because this actually feeds really, really well into some remarks, I think, from last week. Somebody had a comment of, I have a large company I'm helping in the hospitality space. So note that, hospitality space. And they're thinking of sub-branding. And again, like you just talked about it, right? What is the best way to deploy that sub-brand? And now you talk about an exclusive higher end brand, but I'm just wondering if maybe sometimes you don't deploy I've seen it in the snowboard world where you deployed, and this is a bit of a rabbit hole. Oh my God, I'm turning into you right now. Where I worked with a snowboard company.
Go, Road Dog.
Anywho, they deployed a sub brand, which was a cheaper version of their product, so they could compete at the entry level board prices with all the big retailers. But then they still had their main high end brand. But anywho, that all being said, let's talk about sub branding, hospitality space, and then the best way to deploy a sub brand.
Beauty. First of all, I want to exactly what you're saying. Like, so what you're saying, right, is some know this and some don't, but the clients probably don't. But the snowboards, the premium snowboard, right? Let's just call that super expensive. What's a super expensive snowboard? $2,000? Am I close?
No, it'd probably be half that. I don't even know anymore. I know that on a wholesale level, it was, you're talking $300 to $400 wholesale, and then depending on whatever the margins were at the time, right?
Cool. But that was back when, right?
Oh, like over a decade ago. Yeah, 2 decades likely.
So anywho, so look, let's just, for the sake of the argument, let's just say like a really kick butt, I don't know, let's say a good, I have no idea, but I'm going to say a good snowboard is two grand. Then an inexpensive snowboard is 500. The $2,000 board, which we're going to call premium, and the $500 board budget, they're built in the same factory, right? The same way that, like you got Michelin and Firestone, et cetera, back in the day, tires, the same wheels, same tires are built in the same factory, right? But anywho, and that's not to say that the $2,000 board is the same as the $500 board. That's not what we're saying, right? But you're going to, cut some corners and use a less expensive, base of wood, et cetera, et cetera. But at the end of the day, that's not the expensive part of building a snowboard. If you understand that world, it's the jig, right? Really, really expensive to build the jig. And that's why they could do something like that, right? So could your client do that? In some cases, yes. In some cases, no. I just look 3 questions I think that would be most relevant if I was consider a sub brand. It would be what is it like? Is this an organic fit for their business, right? And a common product idea. So is this an organic fit / common product idea for the business, right? Another question I'd ask is, does this solve an existing problem in the marketplace that the other product does not, right? Like, is there a hole? Is there a category? Is there a hole in the market, right? Does this solve an existing problem in the marketplace? Do they have enough resources to allocate to its success? Because that again could be a problem. You start chasing 2 rabbits. What tends to happen? Normally bad things, right? And as a framework, so number 1, what did I say? Organic fit. Number 2, an existing problem in the marketplace. By the way, that would be different than a hole in the marketplace, but an existing problem in the marketplace. And then third, do they have enough resources? Think people, think money, think products, etc. Right? And as a frame, there's a saying: the second business eats the first. And if you want to do what we're describing successfully, you need the second business to feed the first. And don't take that as black and white and gospel. There are nuances like crazy. But that being said, be very multiple streams of income is where that would come from, right? You guys have heard about it. I've talked about it to death at different times. I'm not a fan. It's not that I'm not a fan, right? But it's just if you one company isn't at $5 million, it's just like a frame. Do not go and start a second company. It's absolutely diabolical. It's idiotic times 10, right? Like again, Gates wasn't building Microsoft and then doing Airbnb on the side, right? Zuckerberg wasn't building Facebook and selling antique cars on the side, right? It's like a second gig just in case the Facebook thing didn't work out. It's not happening. They took all of their eggs, put them in a basket, and then stood over that basket like nobody's ever stood over the basket, right? So anyway, so just thinking about that, right? You just need, again, multiple streams of income. They start the second company because for some reason they think that multiple streams of income is a good idea, and they saw the guy on Facebook driving the Rolls Royce, yada 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 yada. So, anyways, that second business needs to feed the first is just what I'm trying to say there. Okay, sub branding. Okay, so I want you to think of Coke. They're the masters of this, right? So sub branding is when the main brand creates a subsidiary. So that would be, so think Diet Coke, which is insanely successful, by the way. And the goal is to create a new audience to connect with those that don't drink Coke because they worry about gaining too much weight. That would be your market, right? So consumers who trust the primary brand, which would be Coke, are far more likely to try a new offering under this established brand name that they've known and followed for years, right? So no one's done it better than Coke, Diet Coke, and then Coke Zero, right? Apple is also very successful with this. Like it was iPad, iPhone. It was iPod, iPhone, iPad, and then post Steve Jobs, they launched the iWatch, right? Steve Jobs had been around when the iWatch went, it would have been a very, very different deal. It'd be massively successful, in my opinion. And that's not that Tim Cook isn't Magic Man and hasn't done unbelievably well with the company, but Steve Jobs had a real flair for that stuff. And I think that if they ever missed him, it was in the launch of the iWatch, which, by the way, has been a success, but just nothing like we've come to expect from Apple. But anyway, so that's an example of that being deployed. FedEx, right? It was FedEx Express, FedEx Ground. I don't know the others does. FedEx Freight, FedEx Trade Networks, maybe. But anyway, so sub-branding is something that needs to be done very strategically. And for every example of, the iPhone and Diet Coke, there are 100 that have failed miserably. Like Virgin would be the poster child of doing this wrong. They've got all kinds of like balloon flights and life care. And I think Virgin Drinks, they tried to take on Coca-Cola, right? Comics, poker. They were in the poker world for a bit. Didn't work real well. So if you're thinking about sub-branding and you're going to help your client, there's a lot of documented examples out there where you can look at it and then, see it done well and seen it done poorly. They were asking about hospitality. There's a hotel, Holiday Inn, back in the day. They created an upscale version, and then I think they called it Holiday Inn Plaza, Crown Plaza, Holiday Inn Crown Plaza, right? Went absolutely nowhere. It was going sideways wildly. And then you might know this, but like, again, you ever heard of Crown Plaza? Well, that used to be Holiday Inn Crown Plaza. Until they disassociated with the budget Holiday Inn entirely, Crown Plaza was failing miserably, right? So they just took off Holiday Inn and called it Crown Plaza, bingo, bango, bongo. And again, disassociated entirely. You wouldn't know that you're at a Holiday Inn, right? So anyway, so that's the answer. But do, as you're guiding your client, I would be cautious. The list of companies headed up by very smart people that have done this horrifically is a long and distinguished one. Chevrolet being the poster child of that. I think the only real company, or the only real, Chevy that's done very well would be the Corvette. And in my opinion, that car has underachieved wildly. I think it's an unbelievable car that I would just never owned a Corvette. And I've owned some cars, and I enjoy driving, a supercar. Corvette, not one of them, but I think they're real sexy looking machines. I think they're cool cars, but I just wouldn't buy one for some reason. I just don't resonate with Corvette, and that's nothing. In case you got a Corvette,
you're speaking of that. Wasn't like Pontiac, Buick, GMC, Chevy, right? All the same brand.
Yeah,
which is interesting. And then when you take a look at even what's also interesting to me is when you take a look at sub brands based on location. So in North America, we'll have GMC, but in Europe, you'll have Opel, which is the equivalent. It's the exact same vehicle.
This is it. So again, got to be cautious, right? But how many of those Chevrolet cars that you just listed, right? Pontiac, etc., they're all gone, right? Like they're gone, man. It's just a horrific example of sub-branding right there, man.
Well, I guess the ultimate sub-brand for the iPhone is Android, right? There you go, shoots. Got to get my shot in on all the Android users. But anywho, hey, listen, you had a take on hypnosis and sales. And by the way, hypnosis, never happening. It freaks me out. Magic, yes, you and I both geeks, like magic nerds. Okay, yeah. We still have to we got to plan this out. We got to meet in Vegas, and that magician that I saw, he would just blow your mind. Anyway, wow, like the fact that I'm turning into this rabbit hole version of myself right now is just scaring me. But when it comes to hypnosis and sales, can you explain, I guess, how you do that with a client? And then I chuckle because it's like, can we, how do we do this ethically to get a client and you're not just out literally just hypnotizing people to become clients?
Ethically, shoots, dang, change one word, change everything I'd want to say. No, joke. Yeah, good question. Like hypnosis, I know it kind of could be a little bit freaky, but hypnosis is something, at the end of the day, if you can get somebody to stand up and act like Pee Wee Herman and dance like Pee Wee Herman, right, in front of a auditorium full of people, surely you could get them to sign on to a $2,500 a month business coaching agreement. So I would dare say this might be a good idea. Like over a decade ago, shoots when I did one-to-one business coaching, I got signatures on $100,000 to $500,000 checks slash agreements, with semi-consistently, like regularly, no question. And what I would do is I created like a pre-frame. So think of an open loop that we talked about previously. So I'd open that and then walk them into a close themselves, kind of like hypnosis, right? But I had I've actually had like world famous hypnotists as clients. One had the longest running adult hypnosis show of all time in Vegas, and he's a beauty. He's still on Facebook and whatnot. But anyway, so kind of cool. Also, Marshall Silver, he was a longtime client, and hypnosis can get you to do almost anything. And the way that they do it, and I'm not an expert, by the way, I could not get you up and get you to dance like Pee Wee Herman. But that being said, I could open a loop and then close it and have you say, absolutely, yes, please. So how they do it, like they use the secret, not the secret, but factual statements to lead and pace you, right? And then follow that by what your prospects, you want them to do or to believe, right? So like, let me think of an example. Like an example of hypnosis would do, and you hear the sound of my voice speaking to you, and you're sitting in a chair, or you're standing right in front of me. You can see me standing in front of you, right? But you're sitting in a chair, right? You can feel the palms of your hands resting on your thighs. You can feel the soles of your feet against the floor. When you look in this direction, can you see the light of the candle? And as you do, you start to fall into a deep, deep, deep state of relaxation, right? So the first four sentences are simply undeniable truths. And then the last statement is a direct suggestion, right? So, like, again, you know what I mean? You can feel the palms of your hands resting on your thighs. Well, I told you to take your hands and put them on your thighs. So everybody is sitting exactly like that. So when I say it, that's a factual statement, right? You're standing in front of me or you're sitting in a chair. It's just absolute fact, right? So again, and then what we did, then they lead you into once factual statement, factual statement, factual statement, factual statement, and then a direct suggestion, which, by the way, if you've been to a show with a hypnotist, and I've been to a few, some do and then some don't. Actually, a funny one. When I was actually at that, the longest running adult hypnosis show with Tammy, I was in the crowd, right? This is beauty. I was in the crowd, and then there's like, say, 10 chairs up on stage, and then a number of people on stage didn't get hypnotized. And I was in the crowd and I got hypnotized. They ended up bringing me up. So I'm like, oh, shoot, I don't know. Anyway, so I ended up as part of the show, which was absolutely not the plan. And my wife will tell you that, oh my heavens, man, she was laughing. She still probably tears in her eyes laughing if you ever brought it up. But anywho, so that's kind of how you do it, right? So the next thing you know, if you do that properly, your prospect is effectively hypnotized, right? So if you were selling coaching, what would you say to get like a similar effect? And again, I'm going to spitball this, so I might make a meal of it, but you'll get the idea, right? As you look at my profit acceleration roadmap, you can see 12 key areas of your business. You can see none of the 12 areas has a larger than 5% increase. My profit acceleration software found you a 94% compounding increase, which totals 215,000 in your profits this year. As you acknowledge the incredible effects of my profit acceleration software, your only question is, when can we get started? Right? Or like another example, as you look at my profit acceleration testimonials, you can see the lowest increase in my client's profit over the first 12 months of working with me was $96,010. You notice my testimonials all mention the client being nervous at first, but they decided to dive into profit acceleration with me. You can see they all mention coaching with me over a period of no less than 3 years. As you digest all of this, you begin to realize I'm the person to help you and you want to build your business with profit acceleration, right? So that, and by the way, you're going to use that exactly? Probably not. But okay, here's the question. If you were sitting in front of somebody and then they heard that, would they know what was going on? And let me tell you, with a million, like with that, the answer is no. People don't know. Like I can sit in front of you and match and mirror, right? Like, so you put your elbow on the desk and I put my elbow, like, hopefully you guys know that, right? Matching and mirroring. So Road Dog and I are sitting across from one another. I'm trying to sell him something. When he talks fast, like I'm pacing and mirroring him, right? So he crosses his legs, I cross my legs. He unfolds his legs, I unfold my legs. He puts his hand up on the desk, I put my hand up on the desk. Is he going to know what I'm doing? And the answer is no. Like, go to a restaurant and you're sitting beside another family, right? And let's say dad's over there and he's got a glass of water. Every time he puts his hand on the glass of water, takes a drink, you do exactly that, right? After you do that a number of times, you go and grab your glass of water and drink it. And guess what he'll do? He'll do the same thing. He's not going to know what's going on. I assure you. And by the way, test it, see if I'm right. But I'm telling you, that will work. So anyway, so that's hypnosis right there. But hopefully that helps. But yeah, shoot.
I'm so glad I was muted there, bud. Oh my God. The crossing, the uncrossing, I'm like, and is that why you always grab my thigh when I grab yours? Is that how that works? Oh my God. Oh my God. It's too much. It's too much. Hey, by the way, if I go over and see Tammy and I snap my fingers, will she even remember that she's married to you? Or did you hypnotize her into all of that? Oh my God.
No comment.
So good. All right, bud. On that note, let's quickly wrap this up. The one thing. What's one thing besides maybe the mirroring thing that somebody can take and implement to their business today?
That was good, Chiz. I don't know, margins. We've talked about margins lots of times in the past. So let's go to margin. You got to, like, again, Rick on the pre-show, he's got a client that's $5 million a year, 2.5% margins. I mean, I would just do nothing more, nothing less than just look straight at his margins and just increase. Guys doing $5 million a year, go and increase, go increase those margins, take those margins from 2.5% to 5, right? And guess what? You just doubled the profitability. And is it going to be hard to do? And the answer is not, you know what I mean? It's just not going to be that hard. It's going to take discipline. What I said to him, and I'd say to you, no such thing as a bad student. There's only a bad teacher. So my question is, he knows he needs to do that, amongst other things. But will he? And the answer is that, do you take them to pleasure or do you take them to pain? And you got to take them towards pain, right? I was writing some copy for this program that we've got coming up, right, for running live events. And like, I was just talking about the pain of just riding this roller coaster of having clients, no clients, having clients, no clients, having clients, no clients, right? Like if you're brand new to coaching, you haven't experienced that yet. But if you've been in this for a number of years, it's a pain in the you know what, right? You go up, you go down, you go up, you go down. It's just painful. And it's like, you're no longer going to have to ride that roller coaster, right? Because it is, you were going to have a system and you were going to have a program and you were going to have a roadmap, ABC 1, 2, 3 to follow without fail. And you're going to have one, like there's an airplane is on the ground. If your airplane's on the ground, I've got to get it up in the air, which is going to be hard. But once I get it up in the air at 10,000 feet, the roadmap is significantly different than while it's on the ground, right? So again, we need to create that segue or that, you know what I mean? That adjustment in roadmap once you get there. Anywho, so that's margin. Shoots. That's my answer.
Perfect. And my only closing tip is if you want to match and mirror Karl, you better up your dancing game and incorporate props. But on that note,
props.
What's that?
You say props?
Oh, 100%. Chairs, belts coming off. Like it's almost seductive, folks. It's it'll hit that, my friend, will hypnotize you. There it is.
Don't pretend that you weren't impressed when I whipped off my belt and used it as a mic. Come on.
Oh my God. 21 days, Shoots. I'll see you then. And I have a feeling the bar will never be the same. All right, folks. On that note, thanks for tuning in to another episode of Business Coaching Secrets with the dancing queen himself, King Karl, who is the king of the Caribbean, apparently the king of the salsa. Maybe? I don't know. We'll see. I can't wait to find out. But if you're not on the inside and getting access to the pre-show, or you want to know more about all this margin business, the profit acceleration software, the quick start, all that stuff, go to focus.com and take a look and subscribe today. And then, of course, you can hit Karl's daily emails as well. And again, if you enjoyed the podcast, please, please, please leave a review. Give us all the stars and all the ratings. And we really, really want to move up in the charts. So if you could go ahead and do that, that would be greatly appreciated. And that is it for this episode. We will see you in the next episode, folks. And remember, progress equals happiness. Take care, everybody.
Karl Bryan built Profit Acceleration Software 2.0 to train business coaches how to find any small business owner more than $100,000 in 45 minutes without them spending an extra dollar on marketing or advertising. This becomes a business coach's superpower. So as a business coach, you'll never again have to worry about working with business owners that can't afford your high-end coaching fees. Check us out at focused.com.